Bro, like I'm not even messing about, honestly. The diet that we've got. I'm drinking this water and I was looking at the bottle, and the reason why I bought this bottle of water, this one right here, is because if you look at the back of it, somewhere at the back, you probably might not be able to say, but you might not be able to see it, but it does say that it's BPA free. And I don't really have a definition of it, to be honest, but I think most bottles contain what's known as, estrogenic components. So there's a thing called dehydrotestosterone or something like that, which obviously kind of reduces your testosterone and a lot of these things, and obviously raises estrogen. And a lot of these plastic bottles contain that. So this being BPA free is literally why I bought it. You know what I mean? Because I don't want to see my testosterone go down as a man. Why would I want to see that? You know, I'm a man, bro. Like, I need my testosterone. It's what keeps me being a man, I'm assuming, right? Innit? If I asked you ladies a question, if there's any lady watching this podcast or listening to this podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcast, Stitcher, Google Podcast, you name the list. If there's any woman watching or listening to this podcast, would you rather have a man that's high in estrogen, or would you rather have a man that is full of testosterone? Honestly speaking, like, I know this might be crazy, but you'd rather have a man, if you're a woman, high in testosterone because his libido is going to be higher. If you have a man that's low in testosterone but high in estrogen, his sexual drive is it's just not going to be there. It's just not going to be there. He's going to have boobs just like you do. Obviously, he's not going to be as energetic. He's not going to be fun to be around. He's not going to pound you like as hard as you would want. So I know, obviously, there's only a lady who's stupid who would say, "Oh, I prefer a man who has estrogen." You must be crazy. However, you'd be shocked though that there are women out there, not gonna lie, who, if a woman has more of a masculine essence, because you got to remember, masculinity and femininity is independent of gender and sexual identity. So if a woman has more of a masculine essence than a feminine essence, she will be naturally looking for men who embody the opposite of what she has. So she would be looking for a man with more of a feminine essence than a man who's got more of a masculine essence. Because for relationships to work, there must be a polarization. So there must be a polarization in terms of like sexual essence. So there must be a masculine and a feminine, regardless of what relationship it is. It could be two women, two men, or a man and a woman. But again, you got to remember it's independent of gender and sexual identity. What that basically means is that you can have a masculine woman and a feminine man, or you can have a masculine man and a feminine woman, but you can never have a masculine woman and a masculine man together, or you can't have a feminine woman and a feminine man in a relationship together. However, there's a neutral, but that constitutes about 10% of relationships in general, to be honest. But anyways, I'm talking about BPA free and testosterone. Honestly, there's a crisis in our diet in the West, or in the world in general, honestly, but especially in the West, bro. The diet is just absolutely disgusting. I have friends who literally all they eat every day is junk. I went on a work trip on holiday. All the colleagues that I was with, all they were eating is junk food, Tim Hortons, McDonald's, for the whole week. That was what they were eating, drinking alcohol. Bro, these people were having 7 Monsters, like the energy drink, 7 of those a day, bro. These things were packed with sugar. These people did not give a flying. They just didn't care, honestly. I was stunned. I was shocked. Because I'm on a cut right now, and in bodybuilders terms, what a cut means, it's just really going on a diet, and in the process of that diet, your goal is to try and lose as much fat as possible whilst maintaining all your muscles. But for the most part, it's difficult to maintain all your muscles, but you're trying to lose as little muscle as possible whilst losing the most fat as possible. So obviously, I can't eat junk if I want to lose that fat and maintain muscle. So I tried to abstain from eating the things that they were eating. But even though, despite me trying hard just via proximity towards people with bad habits, it tempted me to want to do what they were doing. So I remember I was hungry. So I went to a shop and bought like the sneakers, like, the chocolate bar. And when I looked at that chocolate bar, mate, honestly, it was ridiculous. But that chocolate bar had it said 13 grams of protein. So generally protein is an essential if you want to build muscle. So I was excited. I was like, 13 grams of protein, mate. I'm going to be consuming all of that. But there's a catch to it. There's a catch, which is the fact that though it says it contains 13 grams of protein, it contains 45 grams of sugar and about 40 grams of fat. So most of us, a lot of people out there who might be uneducated and saw 13 grams of protein and they get excited, but not knowing that they're consuming 45 grams of sugar and 40 grams of fat, that 13 grams of protein is essentially rendered useless. Typical Western diet in itself is definitely absolutely disgusting. I mean, look at the evidence out here. Look at the data out here. I mean, the diet is so poor. And the weird thing is, like, every shop you go, I remember I was in Brighton, bro, like every shop we went to, there was nothing healthy that you could buy and eat where you're like, oh, I bought this. This is actually healthy. It's high in nutrients and low in calories and sugar and salt and all of that. There's nothing. So obviously environment, you are in an environment where you're exposed to junk. At some point you might want to taste it. So I looked and just realized that I can understand why more and more people are becoming obese. More and more people are becoming out of shape. It's not because of genetics. Yes, there might be a tiny percentage of our population who are obese or who are overweight precisely or primarily because of genetics or health, some certain uncontrollable health issues or crises. But the significant majority of people who are obese is largely because of their habits, largely because of their diets. It's as simple as that. They are partly to be blamed, but also corporate greed is also partly to be blamed, to be honest. The fact that big businesses are packing their food with sugar, salt, and it's everywhere. Everywhere you go, there's just junk. So because of that environment, it's hard for people to control themselves. But obviously, there should always be an element of individual responsibility that should be taken. Like, people can't always just go blame everyone else outside. At some point, you have to take personal responsibility and accept that regardless, you're making the choice to buy these fizzy drinks, eat the chocolate that might say 13 grams of protein, but in reality, it contains 45 grams of sugar. So all of these factors matter. All of these factors do matter, honestly, absolutely. But more, as I've mentioned, because there is a data that came out that found out that more and more people are actually dying of obesity today than ever before. And I remember back when I was younger, this must be in around 2014, we was in a bus, me, my two friends. So we was in a bus, and when we was in a bus, we was having a debate. And everybody was listening to the debate. And the debate was about what kills more people in the UK. So my argument was that obesity killed more people in the UK. I've never looked at the statistics, but I assume that was the reality. But at the time, it was actually smoking that killed more people in the UK. So they said smoking, I said obesity killed more people. So there were people listening to the debate, and somebody checked on their phone, all and behold, I was wrong and they were right. But guess what? Today, the stats have flipped around. So more people are dying from obesity and being overweight, primarily because of the terrible diet in the West than smoking. Because a lot of these foods that we're taking, a lot of these foods that we're consuming, you got to remember, these foods are the reason why we've got issues like cardiovascular disease, for example. A lot of foods that we're consuming is literally the reason why there's diabetes. The reason why a lot of people are getting cancer is precisely because of that. So obviously cancer is killing, but cancer just doesn't happen out of thin air. Some of it might be genetic, but some of it might also be as a result of our diet. The same thing with diabetes, obviously, high sugar diet and stuff like that. Cardiovascular disease, for example, crazy ass diet, eating junk. At some point, your heart's just gonna go, mate, you need to chill out. You need to slow down, mate. I can't handle all of this pressure. So what are we doing to ourselves? Honestly, if you ask yourself this question, what are we doing? You know what I mean? We can blame corporate greed and their ability to be able to psychologically manipulate us by making the food taste so good. Because you gotta remember, a lot of these foods just taste amazing. You go to Tim Hortons and you have that burger. You go to McDonald's, that burger tastes so good. It tastes so high in salt. The drink is high in sugar. Mate, the mayonnaise, the ketchup. Oh my God, it's so tasty. But you don't know that this thing is killing you. Now, eating this once in a while, there's nothing fundamentally wrong with it. But when you start taking this as something like as an everyday thing, like a lot of my colleagues or my friends were doing, that's where it really becomes a problem. Because at some point I sat down and went to myself, are all these people crackheads or something? Because it's just what they do, all of them. First day out in the workplace, we had lunch and everybody was eating chocolate. Like literally, but that place, it was chocolate, bro. These things were packed with sugar. These people did not give a flying F. They just went on consuming it. And I was thinking, something must be wrong with these people, honestly. So what can we do in terms of substantially improving our diets and consuming diets that are high in micronutrients and low in processed carbs, sugar, refined sugars and stuff like that, and fats in general? At a basic fundamental level, it's going to be difficult. It will be difficult because obviously there are socioeconomic factors, because a lot of this junk generally affects poor people, people from a lower socioeconomic class. So if you're poor and the junk food is expensive, guess what? You might likely have a proclivity to want to buy the junk food because of the price. It's cheap. Do you know what I mean? Food that are high in micronutrients, food that aren't processed, that are whole, tend to be more expensive than food that are overprocessed. So if you go into a shop and saw a chicken breast, you saw one chicken breast that's already been cooked and everything, and then there's another chicken breast that is like whole, there's a high likelihood that the chicken breast that's cooked is more expensive. But the problem is that that's already processed. But so if someone is from a low socioeconomic class, guess what? They're more likely to go for the processed chicken breast because that's what they can afford. So there's a lot of socioeconomic factors that play a role. Environment plays a role. So when I gave an example of when I went to Brighton with my friends and all these crackheads were drinking soda, eating McDonald's, like literally every single day. I'm like, some of these people are gonna die. Like literally, I was concerned. But environment is, at some point, I nearly did what they were doing, which is eating junk, which is why I was hungry. I went to get some Snickers chocolate and looked, it was like 45 grams of sugar and 40 grams of fat. It's because of environment and economic factors, and also corporate greed. I've talked about corporate greed is a huge factor to this, because if you look at a lot of these food companies, most of them are owned by similar companies. So if you look at KFC, Subway, Tim Hortons, McDonald's, and all these fast food restaurants, you might think that they're all in direct competition. But how is it logical to be in a direct competition with somebody but opening literally next to one another? No, it's not. A lot of these restaurants are owned by a chain of few businesses that own them. So all of them together are owned by few groups of people. That's it. These people don't really give a crap about anybody apart from their profits, to be honest. So if they understand the human psychology and understand that people love taste more than anything else, what would they do? they would pack their foods with salt, sugar, refined carbs, and all of that just to make it taste good. But the food has no health benefit for people. People are dying as a result of it. But as long as they get their profits, that's all they give a fuck about. And that is absolutely ridiculous, honestly, ladies and gentlemen.